Welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast with Jacob Ayers, providing actionable content to help you along your journey to financial freedom through real estate investing. As the premier asset class, real estate has helped ordinary people just like you amass fortunes. The benefits of passive income from real estate investing will allow you to live a life you want. And now your host, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and apartment deal syndicator, Jacob Ayers.
Hi, and welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast. You're listening to Friday Fundamentals. Hi, I'm your host, Jacob Ayers. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I'm so glad you're here. Well, this week's Friday Fundamental is freedom versus security. Life is full of choices. You have the ability to live your life however you want for the most part. Work a 9 to 5, be an entrepreneur, travel the world, buy a home, raise a family, adopt, marry a spouse, etc. There are so many different ways you can live your life, and it's completely up to you to decide. So when you ask someone what they want in life, you'll get typical answers like health, happiness, prosperity, wealth, etc. And those all make sense. Who wouldn't want those things? But then comes this dichotomy. People want freedom, and they also want security. So in today's episode, we'll aim to dissect each of these two terms, freedom and security, and then compare and contrast them. So let's start with security. This seems like a reasonable desire, right? It's natural to want to protect yourself and your family from threats. After all, that's how our ancestors survived generation after generation and led us to where we are today. Often when people talk about security, they're referring to financial security just as much as physical security. Financial security could be the ability to retire when you want. It could be job security, meaning you have a stable and steady job to rely on. It could simply mean knowing what to expect in your life tomorrow, next week, and next year. And then there's freedom. Freedom is another thing that many people want. It's one of the principles the United States is founded on. We likely take many of the freedoms we do have for granted. We have the freedom to choose our careers, who we marry, where we live, how we earn money, where we travel. We have the freedom to speak freely, discuss ideas, and so much more. People have so much freedom that they don't even know what to do with it. I have a good friend who travels the world with nothing more than a backpack. Yes, I'm not exaggerating, just a backpack. And he's been abroad for 2 years now, traveling all around the world and picking his next stop based on what type of food he's in the mood for. Yeah, I'm not kidding. This is what he does. And he has what would most call a high level of freedom. Freedom and security are a bit of a dichotomy, you see. On one hand, freedom allows you the flexibility to do what you want, whereas security will provide assurance and safety every day. Think of freedom and security on a sliding scale, with freedom on one end and security on the other end. Now take that slide and push it all the way over to the security side. There are all different types of ways to relate this, but let's look at a few examples. If we were talking about, say, government, then the security side of the scale might look a lot like communism, whereas the freedom side of the scale might look like total anarchy. Now, I'm not attempting to be political here, but rather show that if you have only one side of the scale, then the results look much different from the other side. Let's take another example. Let's look at lifestyle. Slide that scale all the way to the security side once again, and you might find yourself in a maximum security prison. Slide that all the way to the freedom side, and you might find yourself without any possessions, job, or money, just roaming the world doing whatever you want with absolutely no security, but tons of freedom. Think of it this way. After all, we don't have any maximum freedom prisons that I know of, but we do have maximum security prisons. Now, sure, these are quite dramatic examples and maybe not the most realistic, but you begin to understand what one without the other looks like. Then comes the question, why are we even talking about freedom versus security in the first place? Well, you have the ability to live your life as free or as secure as you want. It's up to you to decide where to take risks for your freedom and where you want security. Chances are you probably don't want completely one without the other. So only you know what balance of freedom and security is best for you. Understanding that taking risks in return for some level of freedom will cost you some security. And that whole philosophy is important to understand when trying to decide what you're going to do and how you're going to live your life. So find freedom where you want. Build security where it matters to you. Using these two levers, you can begin to engineer the lifestyle you want, which is one of the fundamentals here at the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom. Well, that wraps up this week's Friday Fundamental. Hey, I really hope you're getting value from this show. If you like what you heard, please go over and leave a rating and review on whichever platform you're listening on. Well, till next week, engineer the lifestyle you want.
You've been listening to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast, providing you actionable content to build your real estate empire. Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for personal advice. The opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have a potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom, LLC, exclusively.